Some families lose power because they fail. Others lose it because the world changes. But a rare few lose everything for a different reason. They build their empire before history knows how to protect it. This is the story of one of those families, and of a man whose ambition arrived too early. In the early 16th century, Europe was changing faster than its institutions. Kings ruled, but borders were unstable. Empires expanded, but authority was personal, not administrative. Wealth existed, but the systems designed to protect it did not. There were no central banks to stabilize economies, no international courts to enforce contracts across borders, no reliable bureaucracies capable of separating private wealth from political favor. Money moved through trust, through access, through promises made in private chambers and sealed with wax. This was a world where fortune could be made quickly and lost just as quietly. It rewarded speed, it rewarded confidence, and above all, it rewarded those willing to move before anyone else understood the risks. This was the world the Welser family of Augsburg entered. Augsburg was not a capital city, it was something more dangerous. It was a crossroads. Merchants passed through its streets carrying silver, spices, textiles, and information. Credit flowed more freely here than authority ever did, and families who understood trade could grow powerful without ever ruling land. The Welsers were one of those families. They did not inherit titles. They inherited instincts. For generations, they refined the mechanics of trade, learning how to move goods efficiently, how to extend credit strategically, and how to position themselves close to power without becoming part of it. But in the late 15th century, one member of the family saw an opportunity others missed. His name was Bartholomäus Welser. Bartholomäus Welser was not content with commerce alone. He understood that Europe was entering a new phase, one where merchants could rival princes, and capital could shape empires more effectively than armies. Land was static, money moved. Under his direction, the Welser operations expanded rapidly. They financed imperial campaigns. They supplied rulers with credit when treasuries ran dry. They moved silver and goods across distances most families wouldn't attempt. Most importantly, they lent money to the Habsburg emperors, men whose ambitions far exceeded their immediate resources. This relationship was intoxicating. Imperial dependence created influence. Influence created access. And access felt like permanence. But permanence in this era was an illusion. Unlike older aristocratic families, the Welsers had no inherited model for restraint. They were inventing something new. They were operating at a scale history had not yet tested. Bartholomäus believed that size itself would protect them, that wealth, once large enough, would harden into stability. But wealth without structure behaves differently. It floats. It relies on rulers remaining solvent, on wars being won, on political promises being honored. There were no institutions to absorb shocks, no systems to separate the family's fortunes from the instability of empire. This is what later generations would misunderstand about the Welsers. They were not reckless. They were operating in a world where restraint had not yet been institutionalized. As the family's wealth grew, so did its visibility, and visibility demanded architecture. The Welsers began to build grand residences, and not inherited castles steeped in centuries of legitimacy, but carefully designed estates meant to signal arrival. Stone facades, formal halls, symmetry and order carved into architecture. These buildings were not defensive, they were symbolic. They said, "We belong here." They said, "This wealth is not temporary." But architecture can only suggest permanence. It cannot create it. These estates were declarations, not foundations. And declarations require recognition to survive. The Welsers' power rested on a fragile equation. They supplied money. Rulers supplied legitimacy. As long as emperors needed them, the family mattered. But imperial favor is volatile. Wars ended. Priorities shifted. New advisors replaced old ones. Loans went unpaid. Contracts were renegotiated or ignored entirely. There was no neutral authority to intervene. In a world without strong institutions, private power remained exposed. Bartholomäus had built influence faster than history could stabilize it. Then came the decision that perfectly captured the family's moment in history. The Welsers were granted control over a distant colonial territory, an area in present-day Venezuela. It was unprecedented. A private family operating as a colonial authority. In theory, it was an extension of their financial reach. In practice, it exposed every weakness of early private empire. The territory demanded protection, administration, military presence. It required state power, but the state's support was inconsistent. The venture drained resources, attracted hostility, and created political enemies. What looked like expansion became liability. Bartholomäus had proven what private ambition could attempt, but also what it could not sustain. This was the Welser tragedy, not failure, timing. They were operating decades, perhaps centuries, before Europe developed the systems necessary to protect private wealth at this scale. Later dynasties would benefit from central banks, legal frameworks, bureaucratic states. The Welsers had none of these. They were pioneers without protection. There was no dramatic collapse, no single moment historians could point to and say, here. Instead, relevance eroded, debt accumulated, political access diminished, opportunities narrowed. The family's wealth fragmented across generations. Their estates remained briefly, but without momentum, stone alone could not preserve influence. This is how early power often ends. Not in scandal, but in silence. The Welser estate still conveyed confidence, but confidence is not power. Architecture can imply order, but it cannot create systems. The buildings outlasted the ambitions that built them. Stone endured. Influence did not. Today, the Welser name survives mostly in archives and footnotes. They are remembered as rivals of the Fuggers, as early architects of merchant power, as proof that wealth could challenge nobility, but also as evidence of history's indifference to timing. They arrived too early to benefit from the world they helped shape. The Welsers did not lose power because they lacked vision. They lost it because vision alone is not enough. Power needs structure. Wealth needs insulation. Ambition needs restraint, or time. Institutions came later. Safeguards came later. Stability came later. By the time the world learned how to preserve private power, the Welsers had already faded from it. They built an empire before history knew how to keep it. And when the world finally caught up, their power was already gone. Thank you for watching. If stories like this matter to you, and stories about timing, power, and restraint, you're welcome to stay and subscribe. Subscribing simply means you'll be here for the next chapter.